Hello again. Right, we're going to talk Arsenal now. We have said window after window after window. Are they going to get a striker? Are they going to get a striker?
They're certainly going to try. And this man, Benjamin Šeško, is high on their list. I'm told that initial talks are now taking place between Arsenal and RB Leipzig over Šeško. They're understood, or Arsenal, to be exploring the conditions of a deal because whereas before there might have been a release clause, it's our understanding it's not as simple as that now. So RB Leipzig can basically charge what they feel they want. And I think they're basing their valuation, like some other clubs do, by comparing what other strikers are going for. So they might look at the likes of Gyökeres and Alexander Isak and say, well, if they're worth that much, then Benjamin Šeško will be worth this much. And we think, according to Sky in Germany, it's around 80 million it's going to cost Arsenal. But it's clear if there's no release clause, Arsenal can go into talks as a starting point for negotiation. So they will try and bring that price down. Now, as far as Leipzig are concerned, Šeško is very relaxed about his situation there, and he's not going to rock the boat. That said, he's attracted by the prospect of a potential move to Arsenal and playing in the Champions League, which RB Leipzig won't have next season. And it's not just him that Arsenal are looking at, because we have been talking for many windows about strikers that they have been interested in. And internally, they will still discuss the likes of the man we've mentioned before in Victor Gyökeres. But Šeško, it seems, is climbing up that list as far as Arsenal are concerned.
Carve, when we asked about Arsenal and their striker, they briefed, didn't they? And they told us, no, we're going to wait until we get the right striker. Is Benjamin Šeško for £80 million the right striker?
I don't think Arsenal would pay that much for him, and even if they did, it would be in instalments. Potentially, he could be the answer to what they're looking for. He's one of the best young strikers in Europe. He's proved himself. Arsenal have been watching him very, very closely for a long time. I think he's still 22, so he would have resale value as well, whereas Gyökeres, I think, has just turned 27. So that wouldn't necessarily be the case with him.
Couldn't they fall into the Højlund trap, though, of spending a lot of money on potential?
Good question. All I would say is, personally, last summer when we were reporting on Højlund, there was a few people here who work with us who'd been out to Italy and watched Højlund play, and they weren't that impressed with him, and they couldn't really understand why United were paying that much for him. I hadn't watched Højlund before he came to United. With Šeško, I can say personally I have seen him play. I saw him play last summer for Slovenia against England, and I wasn't that impressed, but only because he didn't do much, because Slovenia were defending for 90 minutes. He did a lot off the ball as well. But from what I've seen and what other people will have watched on clips or watching games in the Bundesliga, he looks like a fantastic young player. And he looks like a player who could really develop working under Mikel Arteta at Arsenal. And I think if I was an Arsenal fan, I would be very excited about the prospect of him becoming an Arsenal player.
I think that's what Carve says there about development. That's what Arsenal will look at as well, and any club will look at when they're going to spend big money on a player. They will see Šeško maybe as having a really high ceiling, given his age and his development so far at Leipzig. They've probably seen something, Arsenal, to think, well, yeah, his record goals-wise has been beaten by other players in the Bundesliga, admittedly, but if he was to come into this team, these are the kind of chances we'd be creating, and these are the number of goals maybe he could get at Arsenal, because they see his potential as being a lot higher than maybe some of their other targets.
Sure. And to be fair to Højlund joined a team who were having one of their worst ever seasons in the top flight, whereas Šeško would be moving, if he moves to Arsenal, would be moving to a really top class team who may be just a striker away from winning the title.
And I think the difference between Šeško and Højlund as well, Højlund, you say, was joining a struggling team, but also he was expected to lead the line for Manchester United. Šeško is going to be joining a club where there's a lot of experience in the forward areas already, and a lot of Premier League experience in the forward areas already. So if they wanted to just like ease him in, if they were to buy him, they'd be able to do that. I don't think United kind of had that option because there were no other strikers there.
And I still think there's a very good chance that Højlund will come good. He's a very young player. United had a terrible season. He wasn't at his best. But that doesn't mean that in the future he's not going to develop and show everybody what he's capable of.
And who knows, if Gyökeres was to join United, would he be the perfect player to come into United with experience to help Højlund along?
Sure. As you can tell, a lot to talk about with this. We're going to revisit at 7 o'clock. Arsenal, Dharmesh, it feels to me like they are going to be busy this window, in and out. What else is bubbling around there?
Martin Zubimendi, that one is still bubbling along. He's expected to have a medical soon, is what I've been told, at Arsenal. Everything about that deal looks like it's done. A £51 million release clause, which Arsenal will pay. And the personal terms have been agreed in principle. So once he gets his medical, it's expected that he will become an Arsenal player. I think they still want to keep Thomas Partey to Arsenal. There have been interest via his representatives from clubs in Saudi and in Europe, because he's a free agent as it stands very, very soon. Come the end of June, he's going to be out of contract at Arsenal. But negotiations are continuing between Arsenal and its representatives about extending that deal, because Arsenal do definitely want to keep him. As far as other forward areas go, we do know that there's an interest, which has got a lot of Arsenal fans excited, in Real Madrid's Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Now, as it stands, he's expected to be part of Real Madrid's squad for the FIFA Club World Cup. Thereafter, let's see what can happen. But again, like I've been saying with United and with Arsenal, he's just one of a number of players that they're looking at in that specific area. But I think what might attract Arsenal about Rodrigo is the fact that he can play along the front line. I know predominantly he's been playing on the right, and people will say, well, how's he going to oust someone like Bukayo Saka from the team? But he can play in the centre and he can play on the left as well.
OK. I want to talk Joe Bellingham.
Arsenal are making strong progress on their summer transfer plans, with Benjamin Šeško, Martin Zubimendi, and Viktor Gyökeres all under consideration. Šeško is pressing ahead in talks. RB Leipzig has scheduled discussions with Arsenal this week, reflecting the club's serious intent to bring him in as their central striker this summer. Meanwhile, Zubimendi, their midfield priority, has reportedly booked a medical with the club ahead of a £51 million move from Real Sociedad, suggesting personal terms and a full agreement are in place. However, the Zubimendi deal faces a new obstacle. Real Madrid has entered the race, and Atletico's manager Xabi Alonso has personally reached out to the player, prompting Arsenal to reassess their position. Though Arsenal insist their agreement with Zubimendi is total, the added interest from Madrid introduces uncertainty to the long-awaited move. As for Viktor Gyökeres, while Arsenal previously held a verbal agreement, their focus appears to be shifting towards Šeško after Gyökeres became a late interest for Manchester United, thanks to Ruben Amorim's influence at Old Trafford. That said, Gyökeres remains an option if Arsenal miss out on Šeško, but they may prioritise finalising the Šeško and Zubimendi transfers before revisiting negotiations.